Hi, I'm Daxton Bradley, 29 years old. I've always been tagged as the family's black sheep because of some of the unconventional career paths I've taken. But the roller coaster that unfolded a few years back in our lives completely flipped the script on my family dynamics and erased that old label of being the useless child. Back in the day, I grew up in Philly, where my dad, Josh, ran this noble pharmaceutical company. I am the second kid in the family. My sister, Stacy, has always been the golden child of the Bradley household, super smart, top grades, and always making mom and dad proud. On the flip side, I had never given them such pleasure. I had never been much of a star student and was just kind of average. My dad always sang Stacy's praises and told me to take a page from her book. It has been tough, honestly, and all those comparisons made me lose interest in things I once used to love. But despite all that, Stacy and I have always been super close. Since we were little, I have always looked up to her as an awesome big sis. Growing up, my dad was all about healthcare. He was always learning about the latest discoveries and making big moves in the field. He even started his own pharmaceutical company from scratch, which was pretty impressive considering how tough the competition is. He kept telling me to join the family business, but I never felt as passionate about medicine as he did. Still, he never stopped believing in me. So, after thinking it over for a while, I finally decided to go for it and enrolled in the Pharmaceutical and Healthcare Business program at St. Joseph's University in Philly. I figured it was the least I could do to honor his hard work and the legacy he built for our family. It lasted for a short while. I had absolutely no interest in that degree, and no matter how much I pushed myself, I just couldn't get to focus on that stuff. Truth be told, what really sparked my interest was photography and videography. Since I was a little kid, I kept bugging my dad for fancy cameras and gears. He knew all about my passion and how much I loved it, but he didn't see it as a real career path. I believed I could make it big in that field, and it's not like it was looked down upon anymore. But my dad was dead set against it. My mom, on the other hand, had my back and stood up for me sometimes, but deep down, even she was worried about my future. I only joined that pharmaceutical program at university to make my dad happy. I carried this guilt that I had never made him proud, and I was nothing but an extra head to keep up with. But the constant struggle with studies and low grades eventually led me to drop out of college. Now, I know the dropout rate in the US is roughly 8%, but still, it was a huge deal in my family because Dad always wanted his kids to outsmart others and be indestructible academic weapons. Dad, I need to talk to you about something. Speak up, what's going on? Dad, I have made up my mind. I am dropping out of college. I can't do it anymore. What do you mean you are dropping out? Do you hear what you are saying, Daxton? You are throwing away your future. I paid for your college, I have a whole company ready for you to take over, and you just want to drop everything? I am not throwing anything away. College is not for me, Dad. I have been miserable trying to keep up with something I don't even believe in. You think life is going to be easier without a degree. You are making a huge mistake, and you will regret this. It is not about taking the easy way out, Dad. I just can't keep pretending I am interested in something I am not passionate about. Passion won't pay the bills, Daxton. You need to think about your future, your career. I am thinking about my future, Dad. But my future does not depend on this one piece of paper. You are being irresponsible. What is your plan then, huh? How are you going to support yourself? Because I am certain you are not going to make it in my company being a college dropout. How do you plan on leading the company if you cannot even complete a degree? I will figure it out, Dad. You are being stubborn and foolish. You will regret this decision. Maybe. But I would regret it even more if I stayed in college, wasting my time and energy on something I can't even succeed in. I can't believe you are doing this. So, after that big blow up with my dad, he was furious. But then a few weeks later, out of the blue, he asked me to join the digital marketing crew at his company and also to go through some training for it. I was already struggling to find a way, but I did not want to be a burden on my family, so I took the role. My job there was to handle the company's online presence, and I put in serious hours, day and night, and tackled whatever tasks came my way. Eventually, I started to like it, but no matter how hard I worked, my dad still saw me as an outsider. So I decided to chase my real passion on the side. I snagged a gig as a backup photographer at a studio and started doing what I truly loved. The people there were amazing and helped me juggle my schedule with my day job. It made me so happy. I would work there 3 days a week, and even on rough days at the office, photography was my escape. The money I made covered my bills and kept me afloat. I kept this whole photography thing under wraps from my family because I could already guess how my dad would react, and I was not in the mood to explain myself. So there I was, doing the 9-to-5 grind at my dad's firm, just like he had always wanted. But still, he never let me forget my failures and constantly reminded me that I dropped out of college, that I was nothing but a college dropout without any degree, and that I had missed out on running his company. He was a master at guilt tripping and would always make me feel like I had let him down in the worst way. And interestingly, Stacy was never part of these conversations. Stacy was knee-deep in her career as a clinical psychologist and used to work in a hospital. She was pretty much exempt from all the drama because apparently she had aced life according to Dad's standards and had always made him beam with pride. Dad had once floated the whole take over the company idea her way, but she had just brushed it off, and that was that. But with me, it was totally different, and I was never off the hook that easily. Stacy was also married. She had tied the knot with Nick a few years back, and they had the most adorable little baby, Rosie. She was 3 at that time and was extremely glued to me. I never had the best of relations with Nick, but Rosie was a darling niece. I had known Nick way before he and Stacy had gotten hitched through a mutual friend. Nick was just right, I guess. I had heard some pretty sketchy stories about him before he got serious with Stacy, and I had even given Stacy a heads up about it before they had gotten engaged. But she was head over heels for the guy and tried to convince me he was the one, so I left it at that. I thought maybe he had turned a new leaf, but I guess some things never change. Nick and I had this sort of strained relationship, mainly because I had never really warmed up to him, and he knew it all too well. Plus, he was well aware that I had my suspicions about his dealings, so he kept his distance. Nick was this big-shot manager at some tech joint and pulled in some solid paychecks, and unlike me, he had not dropped out of college, which made him a shining star in my dad's eyes. Now, my dad's pride and joy was his company because he had built it from scratch. So, naturally, he wanted to pass the torch to someone he trusted, and so he floated the idea to Nick, telling him to quit his current job and hop on board as president of the family business. After my college dropout scene, Dad saw Nick as the perfect heir with his MBA and smooth talk. And the funny thing was, Dad never clued me in on any of this. I found out from my sister that he had handed over the president's seat to Nick. "Hey, Stacy, what's going on? You seem a bit anxious." "Daxton, did Dad discuss something with you regarding his company recently?" "Not that I remember." "Why? What happened?" I don't know how to tell you this and don't take it to heart, but Nick has been appointed as the new president of Dad's pharma company." "What? Wow. That's unexpected. Funny how I have been working in the same position for a while but have never received a single promotion, and Nick was sent straight to the sky." "I am sorry you got to hear this from me. Dad should have consulted you before making any decision." "No, it's okay, Stacy. It is not a surprise. I am used to it. I know he does not value my efforts at all. Anyways, thanks for letting me know, and congratulate Nick on my behalf." Now, I did not have any issue with Nick taking charge of the company, but deep down, I always hoped Dad would pass it down to me someday. It had been nearly 5 years since I was grinding away in the same position with no sign of progress, and it was starting to get under my skin. I mean, if Nick was getting bumped up to president, the least I deserved was a little recognition and promotion, but as expected, nothing came my way. I kept my mouth shut because I valued my peace, and the last thing I needed was for Dad to give me another lecture about dropping out of college and being a complete failure. Meanwhile, Nick had started looking down on me even more. His actions and words made it crystal clear that he was loving every minute of this whole setup. "Nick, I heard you are the new president. Congratulations." "Thanks, but I'm sure it comes as no surprise to you. After all, you were always the underachiever in the family." His words cut deep, slicing through me like a sharp blade. Who did he think he was, pointing fingers at me like that? "Excuse me?" "Oh, come on. Let's not kid ourselves. Dad made the right choice by picking me over you. I mean, who would trust a college dropout and a mere digital marketeer with such a responsibility? Just because I did not follow the traditional path does not mean I am incapable, and I have worked hard for this company, probably harder than you ever did." "Oh, please. Spare me the sob story. Your dad saw potential in me, something he never saw in you. Maybe if you had applied yourself more, you would not be in this situation." "You know what, Nick? Enjoy your moment, okay? And when it catches up with you, I will be here to pick up the pieces, okay?" Whatever you say, buddy. But for now, I suggest you stay in your lane and let the professionals handle things. Almost 2 years had passed after Nick had been assigned the president, and I had made peace with the fact that it would never be me, and I was fine with it. But then one day, Stacy called me up and asked me if I could babysit Rosie because she and Nick had some urgent stuff to handle, and of course, I said yes because the truth is, I loved hanging out with Rosie. I headed over to their place, and they left shortly after. Now I was doing some work when Rosie begged me to play hide and seek with her, and I could not resist her cute little face, so I agreed and told her to go hide. I started searching and eventually found her tucked behind Nick's desk in his study, and that was when I spotted some documents. They were just sitting there like they had been left in a rush. The name of my dad's company jumped out at me, and my curiosity got the best of me. I flipped through the papers and uncovered something jaw-dropping. The documents laid out Nick's plans plain as day. Turns out some shady deals were going on behind the scenes, secret transactions, money disappearing into thin air and all that, and guess whose signature was plastered all over them? Nick's. There was even a paper guaranteeing him financial help and job security if my dad's company went down in the future. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Nick, the golden boy of the family, was knee-deep in embezzlement and fraud within the company. It was like my whole world got flipped upside down in an instant, and shock doesn't even begin to cover it. After I stumbled upon this bizarre truth, I was left stunned and unsure of my next move, and it took me a good 10 minutes to process it all. Swiftly, I whipped out my phone and snapped pictures of each document, making sure every detail was crystal clear. I was not aiming to blackmail Nick or anything, but this scam was too big to let slide. Once I had everything saved, I carefully put the papers back to how it was placed and returned to keep an eye on Rosie in the living room. Nick and Stacy came in a while later, and I made my exit. A few days passed, and I was not able to shake off the weight of what I had discovered about Nick's deceit. It weighed heavy on my mind, and the urge to spill the beans kept clawing at me. Revenge seemed so tempting, given all the jabs and taunts he had thrown my way. But I could not just ignore the fear of what might happen if I blew the lid off the whole thing. I was worried it could tear Stacy and Nick apart, or even drive a wedge between us as a family. Despite the wrong done to me, I still felt a sense of loyalty to my sister. But then, a conversation with Nick pushed me over the edge. That was it, and now I was dead set on giving him a taste of his own medicine. It all came to my head one night at Rosie's birthday, with the whole family gathered around. Nick's comments sparked a bit of a ruckus, and that was my breaking point. "Rosie, you better grow up and study hard, dear, or you will end up like your uncle and keep dropping out of college." Everyone visibly laughed at it. "Can you just stop? Can't believe you are still hung up on that." "Oh, come on. It is not every day I get to tease you. Tease all you want, but at least I am not stuck in a dead-end job just because I have a piece of paper." "Yeah, well, at least I have a degree to fall back on." "What is your excuse?" "A blank paper. Or worse, your stupid graphics for an ad campaign that I'll reject later." "Great, and I don't even want a degree that would help me out in planning theft and frauds within the company. I am much better off without it, Nick." His face fell at that sentence, and he went as pale as a ghost. If he thought he could mock me without consequences, he had another thing coming. All eyes in the room turned to me, questioning, including Dad's. Then he spoke up. "What do you mean?" I stood up and walked out of the house. I'd had enough of taking crap from anyone, and it was high time I stood up for myself. That night, I went back home and made up my mind to tell Dad everything the next morning, before Nick could try anything sneaky. And that was exactly what I did. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something." "What happened?" "It is about something serious regarding the company. I have uncovered some troubling information about Nick." "Nick? What about him?" "Dad, I have found evidence that suggests Nick has been involved in fraud within the company. He is stealing from us, I mean you and your company." My dad's face was totally shocked. You could tell he couldn't believe his favorite son-in-law would pull something like that. "What? What are you talking about? Are you sure you are not making this up?" "What? Why would I make it up, Dad?" "I would have never brought it up if I was not certain. I stumbled upon some documents while I was at Stacy's house. It was a difficult decision to make, but I couldn't turn a blind eye to what I found. I don't even know what to say. This can't be true. I can't believe you, given all the times you've disappointed me. Tell me honestly, are you jealous of him?" Wow, I saw this coming. I knew you wouldn't believe me, that's why I came well equipped. The next thing I did was show Dad all the proof, and if he had any doubts before, they were gone in a flash. His expression went from disbelief to total disappointment. Those next few weeks were brutal for our family. Dad confronted Nick, and let me tell you, he was steamed. He threw a tantrum, acting like a child, and even accused me of spinning lies. But I had all the evidence right there, and he couldn't fool me or anyone else. Daxton. What is your deal, man? Stop making this up. Nick, seriously, knock it off. I have proof that you have been participating in shady business, embezzling and pulling off fraud in Dad's company. That is ridiculous. Where did you get such nonsense from? Quit acting clueless, Nick. I have seen the papers, the transactions, the whole 9 yards. You have been pocketing the company's cash for yourself, plain and simple. You have no idea what you are talking about. You are just jealous because Dad picked me over you for the president's position and you simply can't handle it. Look, Nick, this isn't about jealousy or anything like that. It's about integrity and doing the right thing. You have gone and broken Dad's trust and put the whole company's future at risk. How dare you accuse me of such things? You are just trying to sabotage my success. I'm not trying to sabotage anything, Nick. I am trying to protect Dad's company from someone who is willing to betray his own family for personal gain. You will regret this, you hear me? I will make sure you pay for trying to ruin me. I'm not afraid of your threats, Nick. The truth always comes out in the end, and I will make sure everyone knows what you have done. You will regret crossing me, I promise you that. The situation took a turn for the worse for Nick and placed him directly in hot waters. Dad quietly ousted him from the presidency of his company, and he handled it in a way that would not tarnish the company's reputation beyond repair. My dad further ran research, and it came to our notice that this man was also preying on younger women in our company using his president title, which was absolutely pathetic. And then Dad also went ahead and took legal action against him based on the evidence I had provided. Dad was always fiercely protective of his company, so when he filed the lawsuit, he did not even consider Stacy and Rosie. He just wanted Nick to face the consequences. Dad also sought financial penalties and held Nick responsible for any losses the company had suffered. He could be forced to repay the money he had swindled anytime, which would hit him hard financially. Within a few days, Dad started pressuring my sister to leave Nick. He kept pushing her to break ties with that pathetic man, but she stayed quiet about it. I thought she was just unable to cope with the situation, but it turned out she was silently biding her time. After Dad's relentless pushing, Stacy finally made the decision to leave Nick for good and cut off all contact with him. For the time being, Stacy was staying with our parents, and that night I had come over to pick up some of my stuff when all hell broke loose. Out of nowhere, Nick barged in through the front door and stirred up a storm in the living room where we were all gathered. Stacy, we need to talk about what's happening. Why the heck are you here? I don't want to talk to you, Nick. I can't believe you got us into this mess. Me? This is just as much your fault as it is mine, Stacy. You were right there with me every step of the way. As our family watched the unfolding drama, a hush fell over the room as each of us froze in place by the weight of Nick's words. Don't you dare blame me for your mistakes. I trusted you, Nick. I never thought you would stoop this low. And I trusted you to have my back, Stacy. You were there all along planning and plotting, but now, when things get tough, you are ready to throw me under the bus? What are you even talking about? Stop lying. You are the one who is dragging us down with your greed and deceit. I won't stand by and watch you ruin my dad's company. Your dad's company? Is that all you care about? What about us, Stacy? What about our marriage? Will you just leave me like this? Our marriage? What marriage? I don't even know who you are anymore, Nick. You are not the man I married. And you are not the woman I thought you were, Stacy. You are just like your father, willing to abandon me at the first sign of trouble. Don't you dare bring my father into this. He is the one who has opened my eyes to who you really are, Nick. And I'm not going to let you drag me down with you. Fine, Stacy. If that is how you feel, then maybe we are better off apart. I won't let you or your father destroy me. Good, because I'm filing for divorce first thing tomorrow. I want you out of my life for good, Nick. Stacy was hurt, it was obvious, but what I didn't expect was for her to start hating me. I didn't wrong her. In fact, I saved her from a vile man who would have frauded her too in the future. Anyway, Stacy packed up all her stuff, took Rosie, and left the other day. I reached out to her, but she lashed out at me in return. "Don't you dare call me for consolation now. I can't believe you did this to us, Daxton." "Stacy, I had to. Nick's actions and intentions were never good. He was destroying Dad's company, and I couldn't just stand by and watch it happen. You could have at least talked to me first. Do you realize what you have done? You have ruined everything." "Well, I'm sorry if it has caused you pain, but I couldn't let Nick continue to deceive Dad. The truth had to come out." "You don't understand, Daxton. You have put me in an impossible situation." "You shouldn't have put yourself in this situation in the first place, Stacy. You knew Nick wasn't the fairest man, but you still chose to be head over heels obsessed with him. Don't you dare blame me for this. You had no right to interfere in our lives like this." "Come on, Stacy. I had every right. Even though I'm not into the whole company thing, Dad worked his butt off to build it. What you did just ain't right." "Well, congratulations, Daxton. You just got what you wanted. You have all the appreciation you have craved for your entire life. But just know that you have destroyed our family in the process. You have no right calling me names and throwing accusations at me. I know I did the right thing and I stand by my decision, Stacy, no matter what you say." She hung up the call. I know she's broken and Dad is too. They all loved Nick, but maybe they had to learn the hard way that blood is thicker than water. Amidst all the craziness that was happening in our family, I got an amazing offer from a fine company. A while back, I applied for a position within a travel blog company who were looking for a photographer/videographer and graphic designer. The job description matched up perfectly with my skills, and so I threw my hat in the ring. But with everything else happening, it slipped my mind. Then, out of the blue, one day I got an email saying I made it through the first round and they wanted to chat with me one-on-one. The interview went well. They loved my portfolio and all the photographs it carried, and they were heavily impressed with my 5 to 6 years of experience in the digital space. I was extremely excited about the whole situation. I figured it was just luck that landed me this dream job, especially with my track record. I was beyond excited and couldn't wait to share the news with everyone. But then, just a couple of days later, I got a call from Dad. "Son, can we talk for a moment?" "Of course, Dad." "How's everything?" "I wanted to apologize to you. I have been hard on you for dropping out of college, and I realize now that I may have been wrong." "Really? What brought this change of heart, Dad? I thought you hated the fact that I was a dropout." "I know I was wrong, son. I should not have judged you with a single piece of paper. You uncovered the whole Nick thing and saved my company." "Yes, I did. But I did not do it to prove anything to you, Dad. I did it because it was the right thing to do. And I see that now, son. This is why I wanted to offer you the position of president at the company." "Wow, I appreciate the offer, Dad, but I don't think that is the right path for me." "What? But why not?" "I now know that you have the skills and integrity to lead the company." "I know, Dad, but my passion lies elsewhere. I have got this great offer recently from a travel blog company, and it offers a great deal. I think I'm going to do it." "I see. Well, I can't force you to accept the position if it is not what you want. But I hope you know that I believe in you now, no matter what path you choose." "Thank you, Dad. That means a lot to me." After completing my notice period, I bid farewell to my job at my father's firm, sealed the deal with the blog post agency, and started the new phase of my life, literally. I never expected to hear an apology from my father. It felt like karma coming back around. The man who had once criticized me for not having a degree was now apologizing and offering me the position he said I would never get. Meanwhile, my brother-in-law, who always made fun of my job, was about to end up behind bars. Everything fell into place perfectly, and life was finally going my way after all this time. But now, I have no interest in those things anymore. I had this amazing job in my hands and I was going to earn a living doing what I love. Life has been going so well after all that chaos, and I am thriving while those who tried to bring me down are facing their struggles. All this made me believe in one thing: karma doesn't forgive anyone and moves in a perfect circle.